Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, fam.
Hope everybody's having a great day out there.
Indeed.
Well, if you're in Nevada, maybe you're feeling some shaking going on.
A little bit. Not a lot, but a little.
But it's the consistency too. Since we had that bigger one, and again, this is the Mena, Nevada area, which is west of Tonopah. And it's also east of Long Valley Caldera, and that's something we're going to talk about.
Yes, definitely talk about that today.
So we have a 4.7 quake, so that's not huge. It's enough that you might notice it. But it's the latest in a swarm of tremors that's been basically shaking the area now for a long time.
And that continues to grow, slow but sure.
Yeah, it was one of the things that nudged us out of Nevada. Is we experienced two big ones, and I had never experienced an earthquake in my life before, being from the East Coast. So that was pretty cool. Well, sort of cool.
Yeah.
We were in the camper and when the big one hit up that way, and it felt like there was two Bigfoot or two gigantic, WWF wrestlers out there pushing the camper back and forth.
Oh, see, now I was not aware of that. You were so traumatized then.
Well, I think I handled it pretty well, didn't you think?
You were fabulous.
Thank you. She's just saying that for you guys. I was running around screaming, saying, "Ah!"
He was great. He did good.
Actually, I didn't know what it was. I really didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was a grizzly, jumping up on the side of the camper and pushing it or what, but because I'd never really experienced it before. I should say I experienced it once before when we were at her mother's place, and we felt Ridgecrest go, and we were together for Ridgecrest too. So we've experienced both of those from a distance, but we were close enough to really feel the shaking.
Yeah, we were.
And there was a lot of small tremors, but also there's a lot of bombing that goes on just as regular practice, on the Nevada site over there. So 4.7 magnitude quake struck Nevada Monday afternoon. It's the latest in a series of dozens of quakes in the region, according to USGS. No damage or injuries were reported. A 3.2-mile deep quake hit about 16 miles from the town of Mena, Nevada. And don't blink as you go through. Light shaking from Monday's quake could be felt in the Sierra National Forest and Pine Grove, California, including to USGS. Monday's quake came after multiple quakes have shaken the region recently. A 4.9 quake struck Saturday near Mena, according to USGS. And the border there in California and Nevada, which is where we were on the border, has been rattled by earthquakes in recent weeks. During the first week of December, at least 40 quakes struck the area, and it's way more than that in reality. Now, there's other interesting quakes going on, too. We have a 4.4, a rare 4.4 under Mauna Kea, and this is in Hawaii, and that's dormant. And we're going to be talking about how plumes move, and plumes are what feed these volcanic areas. And then we also had a wake-up call in the Bay Area, as Bay Area residents were jolted by an early morning quake. And this one, again, not huge, 3.7, followed by a 3.6 in the San Jose area.
Wow, that's a good jolt.
You'll feel it. You'll definitely feel it. So when we look at the quakes that are happening right now, here's your big swarm. There's 390 quakes that the USGS is listing in the last 24 hours. And if we just zoom into this area here, half of them, basically 189 of 390 roughly are right in this general area. And you can see this is the Long Valley Caldera area. And this is where the swarming has been going on for over a year now. It's consistent. And we zoom in just to this area. Let's zoom out a teeny bit here. And you see that's 169 quakes right there. So when you're talking about the entire globe that they're showing, that's a big percentage of it.
That sure is, yeah.
And in the Ridgecrest area, we've still had swarming going on as well. What I want to talk to you guys about, when you look at this, now this is showing the movement, really it's the movement of the crust over the plume of Yellowstone. So these are events when we've had volcanic events happen. And this is in millions of years, they tell us. So you could see that at one time, the plume that is Yellowstone, feeding Yellowstone supervolcano, was actually right here at the border of Nevada and Oregon.
Wow, that's really, really close.
So the crust is moving in this kind of southwesterly direction. And over here, it kind of started to turn more westerly. Actually, this is the farther back, which is curious because it makes me wonder also about crustal displacement when the entire crust is shifting, and we might get a shift. People are, well, they think different things as far as what could happen. Some scientists don't believe in crustal displacement at all, where we have an event which maybe shifts the crust of the Earth, who knows, 20 degrees. Or people have noticed the movement of the Earth itself. The Inuit people years ago, the Eskimo people basically up in the Arctic Circle there in Alaska and Canada, have said that, we've moved. The Earth has moved. The stars are not in the right place. They said this years ago.
Well, I trust the Inuit.
I mean, these people know. They're so in tune with the Earth. They feel and know it. So when you're looking at this is 0.6 to 2 million years ago. So, we're talking hundreds of thousands of years. There's been different smaller events. We automatically think of mega eruptions with Yellowstone. And when we look at the actual underneath the Earth, the magma is feeding this area. It actually goes all the way out through Baja California into the Pacific here. And we could see, a lot of times we could kind of trace that by watching the quake activity. And it kind of traces straight up. It's almost like you could see a line. You could see it somewhat today, right here. You see how it's coming across, and it goes from Utah up here, up to where Yellowstone is, right here. So you could usually, and sometimes it's very pronounced, you'll see a whole series of quakes right along that whole feeding plume.
So then that gives you more of a knowing.
Yeah, and of course when we look at those Earth change maps, it really makes you wonder what's possible. What type of changes are possible in a generation. But of course, we know that they found woolly mammoths with their dinners frozen and intact in their bellies, and we've found seashells at 12,000, 14,000 feet, so things can really change.
Yeah, that's what I feel, definitely.
So this movement makes me think about Long Valley, and is this, wondering if this is a more real possibility as far as eruptions go. Long Valley, you see here, this was the Bishop Tuff event, so that's about 758,000 years ago here. Look at the spread of ash on that. I mean, that's all the way out into Oklahoma, through New Mexico, Texas, Arizona. Looks like it's completely covered. Utah, California, of course, and Nevada. And here we have Yellowstone events, which are bigger, but at the same time, this is a major event, and you want to talk about cooling things off and sending us into another ice age. It could definitely do it.
Brr.
Yeah. So Long Valley was formed 760,000 years ago when a very large eruption released hot ash that later cooled to form the Bishop Tuff. That's common to the area. The eruption emptied the magma chamber under the area to the point of collapse. And the second phase of the eruption released pyroclastic flows that burned and buried thousands of square miles. Ash from this eruption blanketed much of the western part of what is now the U.S. This was huge. This was absolutely huge. Interesting the timing, though, too. Like 760,000 years ago, they tell us the last full magnetic pole reversal was about 780, thousand years ago. Same time frame. And, there's other events that come back to that same, time frame again. This caldera is a giant bowl-shaped depression approximately 20 miles wide. Big. 20 miles wide. We were inside a caldera, which I haven't uploaded the video yet. That was maybe, I don't know, 200 yards across, and that felt ominous enough.
Boy, the closer you got to the bottom, the more you could feel the surge of energy.
Yeah, I was all about getting down to the bottom. Then as we're getting closer to it, I'm starting to feel things from the past, like when the blast actually hit and the people that were there, and I could feel the energy and the fear and the shock. So the elevation from top to bottom of the bowl ranges from 6,500 to 8,500 feet, being higher in the western side. And near the center of the bowl, there's a resurgent dome formed by a magmatic uplift. The southeastern slope from the caldera down towards Bishop, California is filled with the Bishop Tuff, which is solidified ash that was ejected during the eruption that created the caldera. And it's thousands of feet thick and is cut by the Owens River Gorge, formed during the Pleistocene when the caldera filled with water and overtopped its rim. This was massive. This was a massive, massive eruption. And, just for your guys' reference, the last time there was any volcanism at Yellowstone, they tell us it was about 70,000 years ago. And it's interesting, if you guys follow and have read into the Law of One, they say that this particular cycle we are in began about 75,000 years ago. As well, there's all these things that kind of go together when you start looking at it from different sources. The most recent giant caldera forming eruption for Yellowstone was about 640,000 years ago. And there have been approximately 80 relatively non-explosive eruptions that have occurred. At least 27 were rhyolite lava flows in the caldera, 13 were rhyolite lava flows outside the caldera, and 40 were basalt vents outside the caldera. And, the extremely big ones, they say, occur about every 600,000 to 800,000 years. So basically they say we're due, but, who knows? And when it, does go, what would it look like? Well, again, Northern Hemisphere would be unlivable. Everybody would have to pack up, and we're all going to Rosemary's Place in Australia, or maybe Oz Boys over in Australia, or Christine in New Zealand. We'll party over there.
Yay!
Because there's going to be nothing that's going to be salvageable for a while in the Northern Hemisphere. And so, the reason that I bring this up again is when we look at the movement, as we see this movement, it makes sense to me that if Long Valley's here, going in the same direction, because this is all part of the same, crust that's moving here, North American, then, this might be the place that the plume is right now, because it was here, it's now here. And as we looked at that movement of Yellowstone, it seems to go in that same motion. So I'm just hoping that this is nothing. Maybe this is venting, that there won't be another Long Valley type eruptive event in our lifetimes.
Definitely. We don't need that.
No, most definitely. That would change things awfully fast, guys. So taking a look at other stuff, we see Yasa, and this is basically a Category 4 type of storm. A cyclone is set to approach Fiji, and it's going to probably be at the max Cat 5. This is the first one of the year over there, and they're going to get a Cat 5. But this is what we were talking about. Pick your poison. Fiji, gorgeous. I mean, that's an amazing little paradise. But, at the same time, you're going to be getting hit with Cat 5 force winds and plenty of rain.
Yeah, those tiki huts just won't stand up to it.
I don't think so. This is absolutely gross. Babies now have extra plastic. They have found plastic, microplastics inside placenta material.
This one made my heart sink.
And, we were talking about the plastics that are inside the whales and dolphins and things like that, but they're inside moms too, human moms, and they're finding this. This is just how pervasive these tiny particles can be, and what's it doing to us. We know plastic can be estrogen producing. It can, cause cancers, things like that. And this is part of our society gone wrong when you look at it. So they looked at 6 women who participated in this study. In 4 placentas, researchers found 12 particles of plastic. 4 were found in the side that interacts with the mother, 5 were found in the fetal side, and 3 were found in the membranes that surround the fetus itself. And so, that's not good for long-term health.
No, it's not. And generation after generation, too, now.
So this is where, and again, we've talked about the political end of it, the right and the left and stuff. And you might have some on the right, calling people tree huggers, and you might have some on the left saying, the right doesn't care. You have to look at things item by item. It's not like one side has all the right and the other side has all the wrong. It's an item by item thing. Are we poisoning the planet in the quest for things to be cheaper and more affordable? Yeah. And that's sad because ultimately we're just poisoning ourselves.
It is. And it's just so we could be lazier and faster at how things get done.
Yeah. And it's sold to us because, again, it's all about the corporate profits. And so South Korea is plunging to 10 below Fahrenheit, negative 23.5 Celsius, as heavy snow comes. The entire nation of South Korea came under the grip of a cold wave Tuesday, and temperatures dipping below negative 20 Celsius in the mountainous areas. And this is south of Seoul. We have also records falling over this way. We have Wolf Creek, 122 inches of snow since late October. Jackson Hole, 129 inches already. This is up in beautiful Wyoming and Colorado. Skiers are happy. And man, I could go for some cross-country skiing.
It would be fun.
It would be fun. I've never done it. I've never done any sort of skiing. But I do remember these from childhood. So Brood X to unleash billions of cicadas in the U.S. in 2021. I remember coming into the backyard and they were everywhere and you're just crunching them, and the rest of the world is battling a biblical locust plague, right? Don't forget about that. That's still ongoing. Yeah. And so Brood X is going to unleash billions of cicadas in the U.S. in 2021. Are you ready for these big, incredibly loud, insects? It's kind of like that humming that everybody has in the ears all the time nowadays, but times like 1,000.
So it's going to be coming from the inside and the outside of your brain.
Yeah. So these are in the ground, and they emerge from the ground in the eastern U.S. every year. And once every 17 years, a truly out-of-the-world phenomenon called Brood X takes place, and a massive brood of them in the mid-Atlantic, like North Carolina and Virginia, etc., and the Midwest, filling the air with a deafening mating hum that can reach up to 100 decibels. It's a great eastern brood, so get ready, guys. It's going to be noisy. And talking about other stuff that makes you a little nauseous, FDA approves genetically altering pigs to potentially make food, drugs, and transplants safer. And the island of Dr. Moreau, this planet is becoming.
I know, I've seen that once.
Yeah, and do we trust them? Everything's going to be nice and safe? No.
Of course not.
We don't. I mean, maybe other people do. Obviously, other people do because this is still ongoing. So, the other thing they could do, too, is patent these little guys.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, but, patenting humans maybe are in the future as well.
Yeah, I kind of think that's where we're headed to.
And for those of you guys that eat chicken still, we have a newly identified dinosaur is about the size of a chicken, sported an impressive mane, and its stiff ribbon-like structures protruding from its shoulders. Kind of interesting because, again, the thought is that dinosaurs are, their offspring are still with us in the form of the birds.
Yeah, pretty curious, isn't it?
It is, and there's so many different types of those. And we had somebody that we were working on, I forget who it was now, but they had a vision that humans and dinosaurs were living side by side, and you felt that there's some truth to that.
Yeah, that was our client from yesterday, actually.
Yeah, interesting. Well, a lot is hidden.
Yep.
very interesting times we live in. As always, guys, thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Make sure you are subscribed and have the bell clicked on both channels, and hopefully you'll get a notification or two.
Yep.
As always, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.